University of Practical Knowledge. Somebody out of 1 West, Harlem, New York, on the 25th Street. We're under Commander GEN.YAHANNA. Right now, we got a special guest here today. We have one of the family members of the beloved Emmett, you know, and we just want to give an interview and get the family side of the story, you know, and of course we got some questions to ask them.
Right.
So, would you introduce yourself?
Joshua Harris Steele. So, Emmett Till's my cousin. A lot of people don't know, Mamie Till was Emmett's mother. Louis Till was Emmett's father. Louis Till, a lot of people don't have information about him because he was lynched by the military. They use his lynching as justification for the killers of Emmett to actually get off with it. But Louis Till was my great-grandfather's brother. And so if Emmett was alive today, we would be first cousins.
That's it, man. You said the military?
Yeah. So it's a thing, this file and it's heavily redacted, so we know what that means. But they accused him and another black serviceman of raping 2 Italian women. The research that journalists did into it says that it was most likely these 2 white officers, but they didn't want to make them go down for it, so they had to have somebody who was a scapegoat for it, and they was the 2 people that they chose to be the fall.
No different from Black Wall Street.
Damn right.
It seems like every time there's something major happening, we're behind that white weather like that, you know? So, wow. So you want to tell them a little bit more about yourself before we jump into it?
Sure. I'm running for U.S. Congress, so I'm a Democratic nominee for that. I'll be on the ballot in November. If elected, I'll be the youngest black man ever elected to U.S. Congress. And I ran because for most of my life, what I've seen is there are politicians who have their opinions, and they don't oftentimes represent the community or our opinions. They don't spend time in the district. They don't spend time talking to folks and kind of getting their perspective and figuring out what their needs are. And I've always thought politics has the potential to be something great if the right people are in office who actually care about representing folks. So that's what I'm doing, trying to have as many conversations with as many people as possible, which is why, you know, one is my family, so I'm always willing to talk about that. But 2, part of my platform is about having conversations. So happy to have a conversation. Appreciate you sharing the platform.
Okay, so the first question I'm gonna get into, like, do you think that Carol Donald, also known as Carol Bryant, whose accusation set off the lynching of Emmett Till, you think she should have been indicted now that the truth came out after over 7 years?
Yeah, but I mean, she should have been, they all should have been indicted. The crazy thing about this is when they took it to court, we're trying to pretend like he was guilty of a crime. You know what I mean?
Right.
That the police arrested him and justice was served. That's not what happened at all. He was a kid who was accused of something. There was no investigation. These men came and killed him. So there's no scenario in any part of the justice system where that's supposed to be right. And she's 100% an accomplice to that. So she should have been indicted just like they should have been indicted, and they all should have died in jail.
Right.
War crimes way back in the past, but no charges were brought against this woman for lying and got him lynched. You know, how do you feel about that?
You know, we've been dealing with this for a while, so our family knew what they were looking at, what they were going through, what they was going to say. What it comes down to is there is what happened, which is very obvious to everybody involved, and then there's what you can prove. And we know that when there is a willingness to prove something, it gets proven. And when there's an unwillingness to prove something, that they get told, oh, there's nothing we can do, our hands are tied. So that's the situation that we've been presented with the entire time. So I wasn't surprised when they put we knew the warrant was there. That's why we went and got it. And I wasn't surprised when the DA said what they said, because we knew that was going to be their talking point anyway. But, you know, it's like this old legal saying the DA could prosecute a ham sandwich if he wanted to. They have that much power. But if they don't want to, then they don't. And they didn't want to bother her then. I think what they literally said is they didn't arrest her because they felt like it would be an inconvenience. She was a mother of 2 kids. And I was like, they still think it's an inconvenience to arrest her, but they don't think it's inconvenient to kill black and brown people every single day.
Right.
And so where their priorities lie is obvious, and that's why they're doing what they do.
Yeah, that's a heavy point. And that's some of the things that we bring up, you know, about what's going on with our people, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And we teach, according to the Bible, the solution of these deals that happen to our people and why they're happening. But I got another question. So, do you feel that life during the time of Emmett Till is different, or are we in the same, dealing with the same oppression?
I think it's different, but we still dealing with the same oppression. We've made strides. Society has definitely progressed from where we were, but the oppression hasn't ever disappeared. I wouldn't even say that it's necessarily lessened. They've just found different ways to do it. So instead of being like, you can't drink at this water fountain, or you can't eat at this restaurant, we gonna price you out, and then we're gonna take away the generational wealth that you could have developed. Now you can't afford to be in these spaces. And so these spaces are secluded or excluded because of whatever standards they want to create. You can't come to this restaurant because of a certain dress code, right? But the dress code is always stuff we would wear, never stuff they would wear. Or locks are inappropriate workplace hairstyle, but if you got the bald-in comb-over look and your hair is all crazy, then that's fine. You know what I mean? So the oppression still exists, but they had to use ways to kind of innovate how they oppress people, because society claims that it is not going to tolerate that same level of oppression and discrimination. We still see it happening every day, but it's different now.
Yeah. Another thing, I feel like doing the civil rights movement, like that set us fighting for civil rights. I think that was backwards. When we should have been fighting for human rights. Like we had our own everything. Like why would I want to go to my oppressor's restaurant and we got our own restaurant, you know? And with the hatred that they showed us, why would I have allowed them to fix my food for me? You know, like they can do anything they want to it. But yeah, that's another story. How do you feel about that civil rights, like what they was doing back then?
Yeah, no, it's a comedian named Michael O'Shea, and he was talking about how the LGBT community is always fighting for equal rights. And we was fighting for civil rights. And he was like, just turn the hose off, like be civil. And that's really what it was. It was like, we know you're not going to give us equality or humanity, so can you at least give us civility? And I mean, to say that I don't understand that they were kind of trying to like take it step by step, like I get it, but definitely the goalpost should have been equality. It should have never been civility, because we wasn't going to get civility anyway. We could have at least fought for equality and maybe settled on civility. We would have made some progress, but they never saw that us moving towards that civility as even an option. And I think the LGBT community, they did it right? They didn't get equality, but they got civility. People are scared to piss off the LGBT community now, you know what I mean? They give them allowances, they give them movies, make sure they got representation and stuff like that. So a lot of the progress that they made, it never got them where they wanted to be, but it got them ahead some. And so since we started from a further back standpoint, that might have been why the success for us was as delayed as it was. Also, a lot of LGBT people was white, so it's easier for white people to look at other white people and not kind of have the same hatred that they have for us. But definitely, I think we should have asked for. I mean, not even really just equality, because we invested so much, so we owe. So to be completely honest, it's a debt that's supposed to be paid that they aren't even trying to pay the debt.
Sorry. And the Bible teaches us like that we are holy people unto the Lord our God, and He told us to be above all people on the face of the earth. That's why He gave us these gifts to be better than everybody, you know. But then when you said the equal to the equal, like it's supposed to be above everybody. But back to my questions. So check this out. What is your reason, like, I understand what you said, why she wasn't indicted, what they said, but how do you feel that she wasn't indicted? How did you feel about that, other than what the paper said?
I mean, the justice system, to say the justice system is broken isn't true, because it works the way that it was designed to work. The issue that I have, I don't care if Carolyn Donna Bryant goes to jail. She's 80 years old. Her sitting in jail doesn't bring Emmett back. The issue is that the same justice system that didn't want to arrest her then doesn't want to arrest her now. And until that issue is addressed, I'm pissed off. Like, that's what I care about, because that system is still harassing people every day. It's still not giving equality in the justice system every single day. It's still bringing up lies on people. It's still got police officers who are killing folks and not being held accountable. So the justice system in and of itself is polluted. And until that pollution is cleaned up, then we won't actually have justice. And what I would rather them do is admit the reason that we don't want to arrest Carolyn is because, you know, we don't feel like it's her fault. We don't feel like she did anything wrong. We don't really care about the fact that she got Emmett killed. We don't know that you know, but you don't really care about it. So if you could admit that and admit that the justice system is corrupt, then that would go, I think, a lot further, in my opinion, than even arresting her at this point. Because even if we arrest her at that police station, that DA, the laws that exist all across Mississippi, like, they will still be corrupt. And so that's what I want to see change, if I want to see anything change. And that's how I feel.
And you brought up a real good point, like how the system is, like, it's deeply rooted. Like, it's not deeply rooted because it was created to do what it's doing, like destroy so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And they never bring themselves up to justice, you know, but let us do one little small minor thing and run. They call us fugitives. Who's going to bring them up on their crimes and their charges that they commit? Right. You know, like, they've been getting away with slavery, stealing land. I mean, everything. Smallpox to the Native Americans. You know, like, nobody brings them up and charge them for their crimes because what the scriptures say, whose oppressors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. So everything is biblical. So I got one more question for you, brother. So what would bring your family relief from the pain of this death? Like, I know you talked about changing the judicial system and all that, but what would bring your family relief about this whole ordeal? What would the family want to see happen?
You know, for Mamie, it was always about the world knowing Emmett's story. Y'all know the story, I know the story. I'm sure the people watching, they'll have heard of it. But if we were to ask the majority of the people in this bar, half of them would be like, I never heard of it. And that's in today's time where it's talked about quite often in the news. The world knowing what happened to Emmett and Carolyn telling the truth that she did set it up, I think those two things, like, Mamie died in 06, up until the day that Mamie died, she was still trying to tell the story of Emmett and making sure people knew about it. So, again, the reason I'm here, because anytime you want to talk about Emmett, I'm showing up to talk about it, because that's what Mamie was doing. I think for the world to understand what happened to Emmett, and for Carolyn, before she dies, to tell the truth about it, would bring the most relief to our family.
And another thing, like, we stand with y'all, brother. I.S.U.P.K, the Commander GEN.YAHANNA. We teach about Emmett Till and what happened, you know, and we stand with the family of Emmett Till. And we want to bring up, like, the critical race theory. Like, they want to take all this stuff out of schools, especially in Oklahoma. You're supposed to be the Bible Belt, in the Bible Belt. They want to take out everything that happened when you can't talk about Tulsa Black Wall Street, or you can't talk about what happened to Emmett Till. Do you think that's because of white guilt?
100%. You know, I was just watching this video on the way over here, and the woman said it best. She was like, they're using the argument that it might make kids feel like they're racist, right? And she was like, the reality is it's not going to make kids feel like they're racist. It's going to make kids understand that their parents are racist, that their grandparents are racist, that the stuff that they say at home that's racist is not okay. But because they've been able to, it's the same thing as KKK. They put a sheet on, and I'm still the police chief, I'm still the mayor, I'm still the senator, I'm still teachers, I'm still pastors. The reason they did that is because they don't really want their identity to be connected to how racist they are. And so that's why they're against CRT. Because the stuff that we hear on the news every day, and then they talk about dog whistle racism, how it's racist, but it's underlined, it's undertone, so a lot of people can't really catch it. But we catch that all the time. If they kids was able to hear how racist they are, then their kids would start to disassociate from it, and they don't want to mess up the concept or the construct of the white family, because you can see by what they did to the construct of the black family. If you break apart the family, you break the community.
Sure.
And so if they start, and they're starting to see that happen more and more within their community, especially because the kids coming out of the closet, or the kids is getting into interracial relationships, or whatever it is that's happening with them, but it's fracturing their families, and they're seeing them little fractures, they know that their power is starting to crumble. And so they don't want CRT to help, because that's going to expedite that process. The more we talk about these issues, the more we point it out, the more we point them out and call them out, like you're going to see those fracturing between the youth and between the elders and their community.
And that's another other point, because what the brother just said is biblical.
Right.
Obadiah 1 and 10, for the violence against our brothers, shame shall cover thee.
Right.
And their shame is coming out right now as we speak, because all the kingdoms fail, all the great kingdoms fail. Rome fell, Greece fell, Egypt fell, and they think America's going to fall, but America is going to fall. But they picked up the same custom as the Romans, and they took it and ran with it. And they doing the same crimes like they did in Egypt with the enslavement of their so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And like I'm saying, we're here to teach our people everything that happened to our people. Like we come to bring charges up. Like it's like we're lawyers. You know what I'm saying? And we pleading our cases, but we pleading our cases to the Most High.
Definitely.
And he haven't forgot all the atrocities and crimes that they committed and still commit to this day, whether it's under the judicial system or whether it's just them coming out. You know what I'm saying? Because Trump had a lot of them come out to show you their real true sides. You know what I'm saying? And look how they did the state capitol in Washington. Like, you know, if that would have been anybody else color, the master plan would have been there, the helicopter would have shot everybody down, it would have been a massacre. So, how do you feel about that? What happened in Washington?
I 100% agree with you. If it would have been any other group, it would have literally been a massacre. But out there, I think it was like 4 cops got killed on top of it. And then one lady, she got shot in the face, but like the majority of them just went back home, like nothing happened. And now you're starting to see someone get brought up on charges, and the faces of the people that's getting brought up on charges, they're dumbfounded. They're like, "What do you mean?"
Right.
Because they never, the justice system doesn't apply to them. They've always felt like they can do whatever they want, and they're not wrong. And so for this to actually be happening, you seeing so many of these people, and they wasn't regular, it wasn't rednecks, trailer park trash, some shit like it was lawyers, doctors, business owners, sheriffs. The sheriff down in Canadian County, he was, or Cleveland County, he was there with him, and he was like, "Oh, I was out by the perimeter," and then they caught him on video at the front door. So it's like, it's crazy to me that we're trying to pretend like it would be the same situation with any other group. That they didn't. That's why they felt the need to be. But none of us would even think about doing something like that because we know we would be killed.
Right.
So if that doesn't tell you the difference right there in how the judicial system works, I don't know what will, because 100%, there's no way any of us would ever think we're going to plan to raid captives.
Now, I got another. So, how do you feel like, do you see a lot of racism in Oklahoma? Just for the people, you know, but for our audience that's all over the world, like, let them know how it is out here in Oklahoma.
Right.
And look, I know you're familiar with the sundown towns.
Yeah.
It's like the people over there too.
Yeah, no, it's sorry. I'm not always
No sweat, bro.
is, you know, asking if there's racism in America is like asking if there's grass in America. Like, it's something that's so into the society. And Oklahoma is bad about it for two reasons. Because one, you got to look at Oklahoma as a concept, right? First, it was like this area where we're gonna put all Native Americans, and then we're not gonna mess with it. That's gonna just be their property, right? First of all, we got to take it away from the Hispanic communities and Black communities that was based there before. We bought the land not from them, from France. So white people bought the land from white people and then told the people who was indigenous to it that they had to go. And then they put indigenous people here and told them this is where you can live and y'all can have all this space. Then they took that away from them and said, well, y'all need to start conforming to these. Then you had these communities start to create for themselves, right? We got the Black towns across Oklahoma started saying, okay, if this is where you're going to stick us and this is where we're going to be and we can't go nowhere else, then we'll take advantage of it and we'll start building up for ourselves. Then you see the Tulsa Race Massacre happen and destroy the Black towns because y'all started doing too well on your own. Y'all need to be more connected to us. Y'all need to be more reliant on us. And so when you have a state like Oklahoma, who is like literally on top of built literally on top of mass graves, you can't expect the racism to ever leave because the people are still alive. Who was a part of it? They talk about Mayor Bynum and how his great-great-grandfather or whatever owned like 200 plus slaves, and how that's how his family built their wealth. So like these people not only are still benefiting from slavery, from racism, genocide, but they're in power now. And then, you know, the city of Tulsa, I was down there with Dr. Crutcher. Her brother Terrence Crutcher was killed by the officer Betty Shelton 6 years ago, right? We was at city council the other day because they asked for an independent monitor for the police. The city voted on it and said, we want an independent monitor for the police. The city is now telling them, oh, the city doesn't want an independent monitor. So, like, the inherent racism that exists in Oklahoma is so deeply entwined into the fabric of the government and the people in power that I don't know how we get away from it, to be completely, truly honest with you, without the whole thing being dismantled.
And look, that's why it takes a higher power they got to handle it.
Right.
Because we don't have the power to do that. You know what I'm saying? Only power we got is the most high power. He can do all things. But as far as one man or a handful of people changing this whole structure, I don't see it happening. They used to call
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it still exists in a lot of different places. Some of them don't exist as heavily as they used to. Edmond was a historic sundown town. It's not as much of a sundown town anymore. You can go to Edmond, but then you think about the young kid, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was naked, and the police started wrestling with him, said he had a gun, and then shot him. So, like, as far as the sundown town is concerned, it's like, yeah, you might be able to travel across Emmett and be okay, but it's just as likely as you to be killed by the police as it is for you to be okay, and that's the unfortunate reality of Oklahoma and these roots.
Yeah, it's the same oppression, man. Like I asked you, look at Emmett Till days, the oppression really haven't changed a bit. They just hid it a little bit better. Okay, so you got any question on the ask Captain? Go on.
Yeah, nice to meet you, bro. Let's say you running for Congress. Like, as a congressman, like, the thing that goes on with the people, of course. You know, I would like to always ask you guys, like, because you are, like, running for Congress, because, like, once you get in office, it's like, there's so many things, like, how the parameters are you going to be able to really fight for the people, show you to fight for the people? Far off, like, when I say running, blacks, Hispanics, and that, you know, because, you know, politicians, like, say, you know, I'm for all, you know, like, so they're really, like, to show you, like, could you, like, really, like, show the people, hey, I'm for my people, and really raising, like, the well-being of my people.
Yeah. So I would say there's what you can do and there's what you can't do. Now, I can't go into Congress thinking that I'm going to pass all the laws and make all of the changes. You one of 400 plus members, right? And then you still got the 100-person Senate on the other side, and you got to make it to whoever the president is at the time. So as far as what I can do there, it's limited. But what I can do and what I plan to do is come back into the district and to uplift the issues of the community that are oftentimes ignored. So you know what I mean? You do a press conference, the media may or may not show up. Even if they show up, they may or may not run that story. And so a lot of the issues that are hurting our community especially never make it to the light of day. Nobody knows what's going on. And since nobody knows what's going on, there's nobody really pushing for there to be any changes. You know what I mean? It's when you got the camera on a police officer, they're supposed to change their behavior. We see some of them don't even care because they know nothing bad is going to happen to them. But it's still our job to document it, to say, hey, this is what's going on. Everybody needs to know this is what's going on so that we can hopefully get some changes. That's what I do plan on doing back in the community. I plan on presenting legislation to be able to get some things changed in D.C. and nationally, but I'm still cognizant and aware of all of the barriers that exist to being able to do everything that I would like to see done. So we're going to present work up there, but we also going to do a lot of work back in the district. The reality of how they gerrymandered the district is we have a chance to win right now. It ain't a great chance, it ain't a clear shot, it ain't 100%, but if we work really hard and convince enough people, we can get in there. And then I got 2 years to do something to make a difference. Now I'm completely okay with only having 2 years because a lot of people sell out because they're worried about if they're going to get the next 2 years. I'm not concerned about the next 2 years. I'm like, let me get these 2 and we can see what we can do. And if the people choose to give me 2 more, great. If they don't choose to give me 2 more, then what can I look back on and say, look, we did this, we did this, we did this. And if we still have, you know what I mean, this much money left over to invest in our community, we still have these projects that are going to our community, you know what I mean? It got to be something tangible for me.
Now, let me ask you this, like, you see how so-called Black Hispanic communities are out here. Broken. We live in the roughest spots, we live in the burnt down spots, like the east side just now got a grocery store. So, how do you feel about when they donate billions of dollars to Ukraine but can't do nothing for the poor people, the poor citizens in the United States?
Well, you know, the crazy thing about that is, so the reason we're supporting Ukraine is because Russia is a threat, right? They feel threatened by Russia, so they're going to support Ukraine because they don't want to get into a fight with Ukraine. Russia is fighting with Ukraine, they're taking it over right now because there's a port. And if they get access to that port, they'll be able to generate their economy and be able to threaten the U.S.'s global standing. So it's all about money for them at the end of the day. We have, I think it's like $1 trillion spending power as Black people alone, but we don't necessarily always use that money to build up our community, right? We also don't use our power collectively to elect folks that would go against the stuff that they're going against, that would take away the power and control that they have. So until they see the Black community as a threat in forms of, they see us as a threat in policing, but when they see us as a threat in terms of political power, in terms of economic power, then you'll see them actually start showing us some respect. Then we can get those projects and money. They'll give, $100 billion to Ukraine. They might give $100 million across the entire country to the HBCUs or something like that. And they'll be like, oh yeah, look, we're making an investment. But we know that's pennies compared to what they could have done. But they're not going to do that until they see the economic power and the political power of Black people as a collective working together to say, this is what we want and this is what we want it done.
Okay, now check this out. The Asians was getting attacked for probably about 2 weeks. I just say like 2 or 3 of them, but so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans been getting attacked since we've been on this land, and we never got a stop Black hate bill. What's up with that? What can we do about that? Like,
You know what's funny about that is it goes back to the money argument. So if you look at, you know, the argument that I was making is like for every dollar a man makes, women make 76 cents. Well, that's actually for every dollar a white man makes, women make 76 cents. Those numbers vary drastically based on race, right? But the only group of people making more money than the white man in terms of that $1 is Asian folks. So because of their financial standing and where they want to protect Asian people because that's where a lot of their money comes from. And if the Asian community decides they want to divest from America, then that affects their bottom line. And that's what they was worried about. That's why you saw that bill come out so fast. Again, the Ukraine, Russia, the Asian community, everything's about money. But because our money is divided, because we don't oftentimes come together collectively to say, we're going to invest in this, or we're going to work on owning this, or we're going to rebuild Black Wall Street and turn it into our own city or our own state. This is where we all move and this is what we want to do. They don't look at it as something that they have to be worried about or they have to be concerned about or they have to protect.
so do you think with all the atrocities the so-called blacks saw during events like Black Wall Street and Roswell, do you think that's why they spend the money outside of their own community? Because what last year they said like black people spend 14 trillion. So like in the Asian community, $1 bill it goes around probably like 100 times. So the so-called black community, we spend it with everybody else instead of ourselves. So would that be something you can lean towards our people to do is invest in ourselves and deal with only ourselves?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, you know, when we say that, we have to follow it up with, all right, but we need y'all to open these businesses. You can't say, I want y'all to stop at the black hair store that's owned by black people, but there ain't no black hair store owned by black people, right? Or to eat at black restaurants, but there's only 4 or 5 black restaurants. And then to the people who are starting those restaurants, are you creating an industry that is actually marketable to our people? Can we afford to eat there? Because I think it is Black Walnut and Grace Snail, Grace Snail, they're black owned. Phenomenal food, phenomenal chefs, like world renowned place, you know what I mean? No disrespect to them at all, but the place is expensive, you know what I mean? And so people can't spend $70 a plate.
Right.
So where can people who can't spend $70 a plate go where it's black owned, right? And then when it is black owned, it's sometimes, you know, not the healthiest food. So like everything fried and deep fried and covered in you know, molasses and honey and the Kool-Aid is perfect. I'm in there. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about from experience. I'm going to support those businesses, but at the same time, you know, where is the salad spot that's black owned? You know what I mean? Where is the sushi spot that's black owned? You know, whatever people are trying to get, we have to make sure that that service is provided for them, and then we got to tell people to go support them.
All right, well, that's all the questions I got right now, but I just want to say, man, I appreciate this interview, and like I say, man, we love Emmett too, you know what I'm saying?
Damn
like,
right.
We feel like what happened to him was one of the heinous things that this devil had done to our people, man.
That's right.
No different from Tamir Rice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What, we 11 years old, playing with a toy gun in the park, and just rolled up and bam, shot him without even saying drop the weapons. They did a drive on him and killed him, you know? So, yeah, we're against everybody that's against us.
Damn
we
right.
love what God loves, we hate what God hates. So, hey, you know, say, man, keep on pressing, bro.
Something I'm gonna add, I remember like hearing about Emmett Till, and it was like it was like I said, in school I didn't hear about Emmett Till. It was not of course not in history class. There's nothing like that. You know it Emmett Till. You know what I'm saying? I may have done right Emmett Till when my cousin graduated. You know what I'm saying? You don't hear about that type of stuff. It's not brought up in history, you know, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's terrible, you know. So what happened to the brother, and you know what I'm saying? But I wanted to ask you, how does that affect you? Like, seeing like some of like, they have like documentaries and stuff a lot. You know, those type of documentaries, like I said, how old were you like, about when you found out about that?
So I found out early, obviously, because of my family. But I think that it didn't really settle in until probably I was in college. So that had been probably 10 plus years ago. Is when it really settled in, like how bad it was. But we was also at the same time, like shortly after Obama got elected, a lot more racism started being more prevalent. You know what I mean? It used to be a lot more hidden before that. It was still around, but it was hidden. But because it was political now, like you can see it everywhere. I was talking about this the other day while I was down there with Dr. Crutcher for Terrence. I hate going to protests. I hate standing in spaces and saying the same chants that we had to say after the last protest and asking for the same justice that we had to ask for at the last protest and complaining about the same people that we had to complain about at the last protest. Like, it is exhausting to be in that space and the weight of the atmosphere of all of the depression and the helplessness that you feel in those kind of spaces. I hate being in that, but I'm obligated to be in it because mainly open up the casket. You know, the governor of Mississippi ordered that the casket not be open. They nailed it shut. They took crowbars to the casket and opened it up, and then she looked at a child she couldn't recognize. The mother couldn't recognize her own child. And she put that picture out there and she was like, if I gotta see the ugliness of racism, then everybody gotta see the ugliness of racism. And so that's why I'm always out there. That's why I'm always, trying to help. If I'm worried about who I'm running for office. Look, this system ain't perfect. And I don't think that, any one person can fix it. But if I don't do nothing, then how are we progressing?
That's why we're here at I.S.U.P.K under Commander Gen.YAHANNA, man. Well, he raising us up to reject everything that's negative for our people. Like get the gang banging back, get the drugs back, and if we don't commit crimes, we'll set this kingdom down. And if we keep the laws of the Most High, also love our brother like you love yourself, that'll be the end on black crime. So that's what we promote. We promote the Bible, the Lord's word, and to keep His laws, statutes, and commandments. Because we tried everything else. It never worked for us. We tried the religion, we tried Christianity, we tried Islam. Some of our people tried Buddhism, but nothing works. But we got to come back to that foundation, which was given to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that's where we stand. And, like I said, you got anything else?
A lot if I could. And the main thing I would like to really give advice. So a little advice, you know what I'm saying? I really like to any politician, especially black, not only black people, who's running, but really don't be afraid to show your love for your people. That's what we see a lot of politicians what they do. They be afraid to show their love for the people. They say, oh, man, that's terrible. I'm really for black Hispanics and Indians. Oh my God. I got really good well-being. Well, what's really going on this terrible? So if you vote for me, hey, that's who I fight for. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to break no laws. And I'm not going to, break no laws, just going to look at me like I'm just totally destroying other people to raise up my people. I'm not going to do that, but as a politician, I'm really raising up my people. You know what I'm saying? And really, like I said, they so, black politicians, they're so afraid to love their people, to show their love for their people. They're so afraid, because once they feel like if they feel like they show they love their people, they ain't going to get no votes. They ain't going to vote for them. People ain't going to love them. The other people are not going to vote for them. They're not going to love them. You know what I'm saying? But be like, hey, you love my people. That's what the Most High wants you to do.
Damn right.
That's what the Most High wants you to do. The Most High will put you in that position so you can raise up your people. You know what I'm saying? So be like that. If I can't raise up my people, then I don't want the job.
Damn right.
So if you take it like that, you know what I'm saying? The Most High going to be good. You know what I'm saying?
And it's like what you said, other people be on that other 2 years, you know what I'm saying? But you said, just like what he was telling, you know what I'm saying? You want to get it done in the time that you got it, you know what I'm saying? You ain't worried about the other 2 years. As long as you in there and make your mark, hey, that's what we are. And it's so heavy what he was just saying because Trump even knew. Trump was like, Obama didn't know he didn't do that for blacks. And Trump said, what you got to lose? What you got to lose?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's saying that nobody do nothing for us when we get in there. You know what I'm saying? So that's heavy when he get brought out.
No, that's super real. My prediction, you know, if I think about it all the time, like I said, 2 years, right? In 2 years from now, we need to be talking about the next step. How much further we can go. We should build something and just build on it. But I mean, I think about, you know, I was talking to some black men. They told me I need to cut my hair if I want to run. That'll make me more electable. That'll make me more presentable. They was like, you know, you got tattoos, keep them covered. And I was like, well, you know, I mean, this is my mama and this is my dad. They both gone. And so I put them on my arms. You know what I mean? Like I'm carrying them. I'm not getting rid of any of this because you feel like it makes you feel more comfortable than because of this area that you feel like we're supposed to be in. You know what I mean? I'm sure if I asked them if I should come talk to y'all, they'd be like,
Let me tell you, I got it. It's a Bible verse that says, watch children got ways to seek love. How do I have to stop being who I am and seek your love? You don't do that for me. And I dealt with that too. They tell cut your beard off in my slavery. Oh, you gotta cut your beard off, like you can do. You know what I'm saying? You damn if I change my ways to look like you. I'm Michael Jackson. I'm not never gonna bleach my skin to look like you.
Damn, bro.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's exactly what you said, man. And I don't know if you know it or not, but a lot of things you said is biblical. You know what I'm saying? So when you go back and look at this video, this can be found on I.S.U.P.K.com. You know, we're gonna point some things out. And everything, some of the things you said is biblical, bro. So it's in us, you know what I'm saying? It's in you, bro.
And we not ashamed to say we fighting for the kingdom and the African kingdom. We gonna come out and we gonna say this is why we do this. This is why we know that we had talk to brothers like you and sisters like you and really just try to let you know about what's really at stake. What's at stake, you know what I'm saying? And like Christ's kingdom is at stake. You know, all the stuff we see right now, you don't understand, it's really an illusion. It's really gonna be gone in a second. In real fast, when I say a second, real fast. We're gonna be living like this, and then they say, no, it ain't gonna be no more. You know what I'm saying? But we can't see those type of things because we've been destroyed by Christianity. Christianity says you go to church, pray to Jesus, and everything's going to be okay. It's going to one day come and go to heaven and all type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But all that stuff is that what Christianity brings out, it's not in the Bible. It's not in the Bible. So we live our lives, you know, according to the Bible. And what we do is this stuff that's going on right now, brother and stuff, you can do that type of thing. You're in this kingdom, but you understand this is the son of the kingdom that the Bible speaks of. Son of the kingdom. That's why I'm asking you about things that you want to come with. Like you are afraid, are you afraid like to really maybe like step on some feet of the oppressor, like step on their toes. And you upset them and they be like, oh wait a minute, this is wrong, this is wrong. You can't be afraid of that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be strong with it. Like I said, come with you believe it. Come with you believe it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like this, you know, a whole lot of stuff, you know, but really it's like being a politician, you got parameters you gotta stand. You got things you gotta, you know, go with and everything. But like with us, what we do, we stand for the Most High. We stand for the Most High. And now this is the time when you have to stand for the Most High. You have to stand for the Most High. And one of the things you want to do, like you want to come up against a whole lot of evil, you know, because you're a black man. Black man, you know what I'm saying? How dare you to run in their kingdom? That's what they do. How dare you to stand here and talk about, you know, but you got a whole lot of racism. How dare him come and run in our kingdom? You know, they don't want you to do it, you know what I'm saying? But you stand on the Most High, stand on the truth. You know what I'm saying? So I really love your people. And that's why it's so important to have our love for our people. Because we don't have no love for our people. You know what I'm saying? But really, I just want, you know, I got a whole lot of people to say, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, because really it's like, it's really like love your people. You got to stand up. You got to stand up. And this is the way, this is going to bring Christ back. and it's gonna knock down these kingdoms. You know what I'm saying? But you gotta be right. When the righteous, when you go, if you be righteous, you want to these kingdoms. You know what I'm saying? In Christ's kingdom, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna rule. You know, it's like you can take it as crazy talking. You just use the walk. You know what I'm saying? It's really like, man, we love to see how people stand up. We love to see a brother like you stand up and, you know, and really change something. Change some course while we in this kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't need no more. We don't need no more Islamic companies going to do this and say, oh yes, well, to say, I'm for all people. I'm for all people. No. Don't be afraid of other people. You will watch. The Most High gonna work it out for you. He's gonna work out for your people.
Okay, so with that being said, you want to let the people know anything about you?
No, it's good. Like I said, the one thing I want to say is, Till the movie is coming out in theaters. My boy Keith Beauchamp, he is very close to the family. The first documentary that the family had, he created. He bought the rights to the story from Mamie. You know what I mean? Made sure she profited from it. It's other people who told the story but didn't have the rights to it. But he actually bought the rights to be able to make this movie. And so I want to vouch for that movie off top. It comes out on the 14th of October. And so I believe we're going to end up doing a pre-screening for it. So, you know what I'm saying? Y'all be on the lookout for that. Please come out, check out the movie. But I want everybody to go to that because that's, like I said, at the end of the day, maybe one of it's for people to know the story. So I appreciate y'all using y'all platform to make sure people know the story. I appreciate Keith and the team for creating the movie. And when we keep pushing this, then Mamie's vision can actually be realized.
We will be there. With that, we're going to say, Shalom. Y'all about some of y'all something to come.